proving the existence of nanothermite found in the dust.
Okay, tell you what, we got where you're going on that first question. What's your next question, Mike?
These 3 buildings failed.
Hey, Mike, do you have a follow-up question? We understand where you're going on that first issue.
Samples.
Nanothermite residue in the World Trade Center dust.
Why is it we got the point. We got the point. But when it comes to the IRS,
explore the possibility that explosives may have been used.
William, we'll get a response from the congressman from that issue. But what do you think about immigration reform? You're in Houston.
Well, my question was about the Building 7 and 9/11.
I know, but...
And I hear different callers call in periodically about the 9/11 Building 7. And when a person mentions this, you either call them some conspiracy person or else you deflect them with a different question so that the guest doesn't have to answer.
Are you part of a group or an effort that's trying to get this on the show?
But you and others continue to call in, so we ask that you choose another network or another venue. We've made the comment earlier. You're certainly welcome to respond as well, but we ask that you take your calls somewhere else.
There has been no data, I think, that I've seen that would indicate that the green job revolution has come to fruition.
Anthony, Kingston, New York, Republican caller.
Yeah, I was wondering how the people in the government can take such time and care in setting up programs to spy on Americans, but not take time to open a basic physics book and realize that the 105 feet of acknowledged free fall of Building 7 on 9/11 would be impossible unless explosives were used to bring it down.
Congressman Duffy, your thoughts? I mean, there are people out there that have that viewpoint. There's been an organized effort by some in this group to call into our show and talk about that issue. What's your take on it?
I don't buy into a conspiracy theory on 9/11 where some inside job took down the Twin Towers. But with regard to the NSA, there's a lot of us who have many concerns about the NSA program and its impact on Americans and the balance between giving our federal government tools to protect Americans from potential terrorists, but also then our civil liberties and our rights. And there's always a balancing act that we have to do. From what I've seen, I think there's been an overreach right now with regard to the NSA into our civil liberties, and we have to figure out how we get this back into balance where Americans' information is still protected, and we still have tools in the federal government to protect us from terrorists. For viewers that are interested in where these callers are coming from, the website is Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. Cecile, Potomac, Maryland, Democratic caller. You're up next, Cecile.
And yet I was able to continue doing my journalism during this time.
Well, we'll talk more about that, but I want to get our viewers involved.
Sure.
Chris is calling from Placerville, California, Democratic caller. Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
We can. You're on the air with James O'Keefe. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, James, thank you very much for what you are doing. We need investigation, and we need to expose the fraud in government. There's a lot of it. So I've been doing some investigating of government fraud myself, and I found a number of blatant frauds in the government report on the collapse of World Trade Center Building 7. Would you be interested in investigating these numerous frauds if I gave them to you?
Well, we do have a tip line at Project Veritas. I can't guarantee that I will get to everything. We get about 100 ideas sent to us a month because there's apparently a huge demand for journalism, wouldn't you know? But send us anything you have. I can't guarantee I'll do something. I need to determine the veracity of these things and do what we do. Apply the Project Veritas secret sauce, as we say it. But go ahead and if you have any ideas, if you have any tips, send them. Go to projectveritas.com and enter in your tip into our tip line.
We'll go to Ann next.
That more would have to be done.
All right, back to phone calls here. Huntington, West Virginia. Nick is a Republican. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you, C-SPAN, for keeping this national forum for us all to have this public debate. So, Senator, I'd just like to ask one question, then I'll take my answer off the air. That's okay?
Sure.
Okay. how much money do you think military and security contractors would lose if members of Congress were required to know basic physics and acknowledge that Building 7's 105 feet of freefall on 9/11 is only possible if explosives were used, since no plane actually hit Building 7? And I'll take my response off the air. Thank you.
Well, I wish you well in West Virginia, and thanks for the nice shout out for C-SPAN, which I support. I guess there are always going to be people like the caller who believe that the Twin Towers came down on September 11, 2001 because of explosions rather than because of the crashing of airplanes. I think that's a settled issue. But this is the great thing about free speech in America. The caller is perfectly free to continue to urge his position and to convince as many people as he possibly can that he's correct.
And the whole point of our show,
Right.
there is an organized effort out there. In case our viewers are wondering, we get phone calls frequently from one group in particular who has mobilized their folks to call into this show in particular and question our guests, members of Congress, whoever, about what happened on 9/11.
Right, well, I will tell you, as much as I disagree with them and cannot see how their reasoning holds up, I have close personal friends who feel the same way. So there you go.
Here is a tweet from
Iran is an existential threat to Israel and an existential threat to our allies in Europe, our NATO allies in Europe. And so I think that we have a stake here, and we can't put our head in the sand.
Congressman Elliot Engel, Democrat of New York, representing the 16th District, Westchester, Bronx area. Dina is up next, Poughkeepsie, New York, Democrat. Hi, Dina.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call, Congressman. Since the public approval of Congress is an all-time low, I feel like when we are critical of our government or ask questions that we are shot down or not answered at all. That being said, since Congress refuses to look at the overwhelming evidence that explosives destroyed Building 7 on 9/11, that's the third building not hit by a plane.
Dina, where are you getting your information from?
There have been peer-reviewed papers that are unrefuted.
Well, I'll refute it.
Go ahead, Congressman.
That's not anything that I've ever heard or read on 9/11. We know what happened. People went into the World Trade Center, hijacked two planes, Saudi Arabian Islamic radicals, and killed 2,000 people in my hometown of New York City. So these conspiracy theories and these other theories, they might sound intriguing, but they have no basis in fact, as far as I'm concerned.
How much do you hear people talking about this, and where do you think that comes from?
I don't hear too much of it. Occasionally you'll hear it, and it just comes from the fact that people want to believe what they want to believe. I think that there's nothing that I've read or heard or seen that would indicate that anything short of those two planes that went into the World Trade Center and killed 2,000 innocent people, nothing else did that. It was the evil hijacking of those airplanes that did it.
Amina's up next in Senator.
Managed to take his name and go national, and people heard of Rand Paul who hadn't heard of him from before. So he really tapped into kind of he found a creative way to attack the Obama administration, which played well among Republicans, and he did that in a way that just, he won Twitter. He really dominated the airwaves. What's interesting though is that the smackdown from other parts of the Republican Party the next day was immediate. And there was a Wall Street Journal editorial. There were comments from Lindsey Graham and Senator McCain making it clear that they supported the Obama administration's drone program. So he didn't, he earned votes and popular support, but he may have lost some friends within the Republican Party for doing that.
Stuart Reid, who is a graduate of Dartmouth College in New Hampshire, senior editor for Foreign Affairs magazine, and has also written a piece for Washington Monthly on the education of the Republican Party. Hamilton is joining us from New York City on the Republican line. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Thanks for taking my question.
Sure.
Question for you, Stuart. Since 9/11 is the basis of so much of our foreign policy, why isn't Foreign Affairs magazine doing more to cover the nearly 2,000 architects and engineers demanding a real investigation of why building number 7 fell?
You know, it's interesting. I think the Colors conspiracy theory really taps into one of the problems with Rand Paul's support, is that he hasn't sufficiently distanced himself from people believing, offensive things that are completely lacking in evidence, such as what the caller brought up. And so if Rand Paul is going to really have a campaign that can go national, he'll have to learn how to dismiss people and distance himself from people with views like those.
James has this point.
Through those exchanges.
Lompoc, California, Democrats line. Joe is up first for our Representative Gene Green. Hello.
Good morning. I'm a veteran, and I appreciate your focus on veteran concerns. So I want to ask on behalf of many veterans I know who have the same question. Why is Congress ignoring the thousands of building experts demanding a real investigation of why Building 7 fell on 9/11? This is very important, and there's overwhelming evidence that explosives were used to destroy it. Thank you.
Congressman, you show that there's an organized effort out there to ask these kind of questions. You can respond.
Well, I serve on Energy and Commerce Committee, and all of us remember where we were at on 9/11. I was here in Washington actually doing a press conference on telecom issues. And, there's been an untold number of investigations like I have been on other tragedies in our history. And I'm not familiar with that allegation, but, I'm sure that, District Attorney or there are folks and even members of Congress on the Intelligence Committee who'd be glad to hear that.
Richmond, Texas. Let's take a call. South Elgin, Illinois. Democrats line. Sean, hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're on.
Hi, my question is, what are journalists and their employers afraid will happen to them if they acknowledge Building 7's 105 feet of freefall on 9/11 and write about the evidence that proves explosives were used to destroy it?
I'll let you know now that there's been an organized campaign about this kind of issue and people calling into our show about it.
Okay.
You can respond if you wish.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're publicizing a well-known theory about what happened on 9/11 that has been well written about and also well criticized. Without getting into the details of 9/11, my personal opinion is that this debate has been well discussed, and that a lot of the conspiracy theories have been disproven. Some of them will never be disproven or proven, and it's sort of one of those mysteries of history.
Pulaski, Virginia, Independent line. John.
22s flying around conducting air assaults in the Mojave, and it was quite a sight to see.
All right. As part of our Spotlight Magazine series, we're talking with Joe Papalardo about his cover story for Popular Mechanics, The Future of War, the New Tech and Tactics. Let me go to John first in Loveland, Colorado, Democratic caller. Go ahead, John.
Hi, Joe. In Popular Mechanics 2011 second edition of its book, Attacking 911 Skeptics, why does it claim that not one 911 skeptic has a background in engineering, construction, or related fields when architects and engineers for 911 Truth, which now has nearly 2,000 architects and engineers, was in existence since 2006?
Well, I was hoping to get a September 11th call, because then I could say, I didn't work on any of that stuff. So you'll have to talk to other people on the staff about that. So
Yeah, and Joe, that's all right. Joe, that's okay. I should just note for our viewers that there is an organized effort out there by viewers like him who are part of a group who have decided to call into C-SPAN to talk about what they believe happened on 9/11, and people can Google it and find out the information if they're interested. Let me move on to Greg in Hemet, California, Republican caller. Hi, Greg.
Hi, good morning, all.
Good morning.
Well, I'll get this out of the way for you quickly. People don't Google enough to know what's going on, but the government admitted that Building 7 was in free fall for over 100 100 feet when it was destroyed on 9/11.
Hey, Greg, we already talked about that, so I'm going to move on because we're talking about the future of tech and tactics in the future of war here with Joe Papalardo of Popular Mechanics. Andy, Utica, New York, Democratic caller.
Hi, thank you. And my question is about the future of war, and it's really for our guest today and for C-SPAN. Since architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth has publicly called Popular Mechanics out for
Okay, Andy, I'm going to move on.
113th Congress, and I feel proud of that.
We had Brian on the line from Greensboro, North Carolina, Democratic caller for Congressman Grayson. Hi there.
Hello, how's it going today?
Fine.
Congressman Grayson, since you're fully aware that government institutions don't always give the full story when it comes to important issues, why aren't you standing by the nearly 2,000 building experts demanding a new investigation of Building 7? There's overwhelming evidence that explosives were used to bring it down.
Now that bin Laden is dead, and now that 9/11 is a decade behind us and more, I think that a good argument can be made that the documents that the federal government has regarding the 9/11 attack should be declassified, and then the truth will come out.
Boring file clerk asks.
Really? We'll talk to Greg first. He's in Kansas City, Missouri, Republican caller.
Good morning.
Morning.
Since you all looked into whether explosives brought down the Twin Towers on 9/11, can you please explain to any physics teachers who may be watching how the top part of a building can crush the lower part without decelerating? Thank you.
Questions about 9/11 and what was really behind it?
I think he's referring to the theory that the government blew up the Twin Towers.
Right.
I've heard that theory before. I don't believe it.
Okay.
I don't either. I think I wake up every day, and I'm sure Bobby does, the president does, and those who serve in Congress. We're thinking about job creation, getting this country on track, and I want to open up coastal Virginia energy. It's just that way. I'm pointing, east here, and Bobby and I might disagree on that, but I really think it represents tremendous potential for us to get our economy going, and maybe we'll get back to that topic.
Yeah, we can talk about that a little bit. I just want to explain to our viewers as well as you, there is an organized effort, if you will, out there to call into this show in particular about what happened on September 11th, 2001. So if our viewers are interested in why we get those type of phone calls, that is why, and that's an opinion out there, and there's
I personally don't think it has any credibility whatsoever.
Let's go back to your point about coastal energy.
Our focus is the Department of Homeland Security. Our guest is Devin Leonard, who wrote the piece for Bloomberg's Business Week. Our focus on Wednesday's Spotlight on Magazines. Shannon is joining us from New York, Democrats Line. Good morning.
Yes. I want to ask, why isn't your magazine covering the overwhelming evidence that pre-planned explosives brought down the Twin Towers in Building 7 on 9/11?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the question.
The caller making a point about the collapse of the Twin Towers on September 11th, which is another topic. We have focused on that in the past, so we're going to move on to Barry.
And then the truth will come out.